Welcome to this week's episode of The Fitness Solution. And as ever, the great guests keep rolling in for me. I don't know what I do to deserve such amazing people with such wonderful brains that I get to sit opposite and talk to, even though I'm in Australia and they're in the UK or Seattle or wherever it might be. Because today I've got the amazing John Wood on the other end of the phone from Tri Coaching, and he's a triathlete coach, kind of endurance cardiovascular coach, I suppose. Well, what time would you give yourself, John?
I suppose the way I categorise it is endurance coach. Tri coaching was the company name, because I figured, well, that's kind of what I'm coaching a lot of. And when I looked online, there wasn't a lot by way of that, so I thought it made logical sense. But I deal with runners, triathletes, swimmers. The online stuff, it's dealing with the whole endurance gamut. Whereas in person, I deal with a lot of swim technique coaching and run technique coaching. And to be honest, I enjoy both of them because it's great to see progress, as it is for any trainer in any sphere, really.
Absolutely. An endurance coach. I like that.
Yes.
I've dabbled in endurance sports myself. So I ran a marathon in 2018, and I did it. Yeah, I did it for the British Heart Foundation. It was London. And my God, I never knew how long a marathon was. It was ridiculous. I think I did it in like 5.5. So quite long. But I've got a heart condition, so I'll take it. And there was no way I trained right for it, and it was the hottest one on record. I'm making excuses, but I learned a lot from doing it, which is a great process. And
I think that's the thing.
Go on.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, I've done 2 marathons, but they've both been at the end of Iron Distance Triathlons, which I would recommend.
So wait. As the way you said that. You said that far too casually.
I have the belief that anyone can do any sporting endeavour, whether it's a marathon, whether it's an Ironman, or whatever. How quickly you can do it is another matter. The pros running a marathon are going to do 2:05, 2:10. Pros doing an Ironman are going to do it in 8.5 hours or whatever. I think anyone can do it. Yes, it takes a certain amount of work that goes in, same as weight loss, same as getting amazingly strong, whatever. But yeah, the 2 marathons I've run have only just been about the same sort of pace that you did, for different reasons.
Yeah, for very different reasons.
well, no. Like the first, I made a lot of mistakes in both of them, and it's exactly as you said. For me, I learned a lot about myself, and I have a little inkling in the back of my head, thinking, I could do another one because I could go so much faster. But as you know, there's not enough of a why, like especially when something's that long. When a marathon is, potentially 4 hours and above, 5 hours and above, where an Ironman is potentially 10 hours and longer. It's not enough of a why to go, right, I need to go and do 10, 12, 15, maybe 20 hours training a week for 6 months, So yes, I could go and do it, but so much could go wrong. Actually, that time at the end of it is not the be all and end all.
No, that's on my marathon journey, for want of a better term. Like, it was things like that I really had to figure out as I was doing it. So because I was like a referee and fairly fit guy, this personal trainer and all the rest of it, and I could run, like, my best 5K was like 22 minutes. But I then found out, like, I had James Dunn. Do you know James Dunn from?
Yes, I know James. Yes,
yeah. I saw you mutual friends on Facebook, and he said, like, 5K, you can't really translate that up to marathon pace really well. I was like, okay. And then my first 10K was like, I was running about hour 10Ks, so it weren't so bad. But I was trying to attach myself to this goal of a 4-hour marathon. I was like, I can do it. I was really attaching myself to it. I was like, it's reasonable. It's not elite. But it's reasonable. It's better than average. It's solid. I'd have been proud. I'd have been very proud of it, actually. But every time I went out training, I was just nowhere near it, and I wasn't getting any closer to it. And what was happening was I was really, really, really defeating myself on the training runs because I wasn't matching the pace I wanted to emulate. And I suppose that comes down to not really having a plan in place, and it also comes down to not really understanding how it works. But what happened was, the second I got rid of the 4-hour idea and just like, I'm just going to go and run, I really started to enjoy it, and that was a much better attitude to have towards it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing, like, and I don't know how your process goes with the coaching side of things, but the first thing when anybody comes to me, the first thing I say is, why do you want to do it? And then why do you want to do that? And then why do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Like, it's something that it's quite deep, and I don't know, you might say something similar, you might say something different, but the things that really matter to us aren't the things that we think that matter.
Yeah.
There's something that makes that matter to you. And so, like, I get people saying, I don't want to embarrass myself in the swim, or, you know, I don't want to come last. But I think the baseline is that people have a level of self-worth, and they attach, whether it's the marathon, being able to do it in under 4 hours, or whether it's not coming last, that's what people attach the self-worth to. And actually, like you said, going out and enjoying it, that's the most important thing. You know, if you're not enjoying it, what's the point?
It really was. And the thing is like, on training runs that were like 10 miles long, I was getting very unhappy. I was getting very annoyed at myself. I was getting very irritated, right? Now, if I'd have kept going down that path, and on marathon day, so like in 2017, 2018, I think it was the year of the Beast of the East, do you remember? And and it was freezing cold throughout December, January, like really cold, even February, March.
Well,
you know, training events were cancelled, and then suddenly April, bright sunshine, and we got the hottest marathon on record. And like, so much of it was out of my control. And even if I had been able to get to 4 hours in training, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it on the actual day. And then had I have not have released, like, if I had not realized that I'm doing this for enjoyment, I'm doing this for my own happiness, I'm doing this to enjoy it, then on the actual day, my brain would have gone schizo, and I'd probably given up during the actual marathon. Do you know what I mean? And so actually, having that realization early on, like October time, really saved my ass. But unfortunately, I mean, I'd love to do another one, but I'm not allowed to. My doctor's banned me because I've got a heart condition. Yeah, so she said no more marathons. I was like, oh man, I was quite relieved. It gives me a good excuse. So like so I tell you what, like, a lot of my audience are kind of, you know, I generally deal in strength training, I generally deal in fat loss, I generally deal with women, right? And the constant debate we always come up against, we always talk about and stuff like that is, you know, what is better for fat loss, cardio or weights and all the rest of it and things like that. But I kind of don't really care. Like, you know, cardio is really important for your health, and I'm a big advocate of it. But really, like, I think most people want to know from you, because of how much of an expert you are in this, is quite simply, how do you get into it to begin with? Like a lot of people come to me, like, running a 5K is a massive achievement for them. And that's like the ideal. And it is a huge achievement. Like, it's a huge achievement for me every time I complete a 5K. And I've probably done like hundreds of them, right? And I still have a smile on my face when I get it done. So say someone who's never run before in their life, they are quite deconditioned, but they feel like they just need to do something like that. What are the phases they're expected to go through, and how would you advise them to go through it, get over it? Like, talk me through that process.
Yeah, I think the first thing actually is, I mean, it might sound really counterintuitive, but I think sometimes it's entering an event, and that could be like a park run. Like, park run's obviously free, and there's a massive buzz around it. I mean, some people, I would call them snobs, would say that it's not a real race, but, you know, you get time with it, and there's other people running at the same time. Bloody hell, it's a race. And it gives you, you know, it is exactly 5K, and you know exactly what you're getting with it. But actually putting your name to a race says that you're committing to it. You're committed to something. And it's the same with triathlon. There are plenty of websites out there that have listings of races, and the best one, I guess, is like the British Triathlon, the BTF website. I think it's brittri.org or something like that. But you can look for races, and you can do races from, well, running, you can do like 2, 3, 5K races, park runs, fun runs, whatever, all the way up to marathons and ultra marathons and beyond. Similarly with triathlon, you can do a super sprint with it being a 200-meter swim, a 10K bike, and a 2K run. You know, so that's something that strong athletes will do in 25 minutes, half an hour. But for someone, as you say, deconditioned, isn't used to being active, it might take them an hour, it might take them an hour and a half. But it's something for them to progress towards. And as you said, it's that sense of achievement and doing something that they're not used to, and then actually building up. So that's the first thing, I think, is actually going, what is it I want to do? Whether it's running a 5K, or having this dream, I'm going to run London Marathon or something similar.
Don't if you're thinking about it, don't do it. I'm telling you, don't do it.
Yeah, and obviously with London, obviously the barrier is not just entering it, it's the fact that there are so many people you've got to get through the ballot, but there are other marathons you can do.
And you have to raise millions of pounds, not quite, but yeah.
Yeah, if you want to get a charity place, it's challenging on that front as well. And then the second thing is then working out how you
get. Before we get into the second thing, just the question that's in my mind is, and how far in advance do you need to plan that date?
Depends on what you choose, what you end up wanting to do.
Okay. Well, let's take my example of a 5K, say.
Yeah, if you're taking an example of a 5K, and most people could walk 5K.
Yeah,
and again, it depends on what you want from it. And I guess that comes down to your why. Why are you doing it? Okay. If you're doing it because actually I need to get off the sofa, and I want to lose a little bit of weight, and I want to be a bit more active, I want to be a bit more healthy, doesn't matter what the time is, and you might say, yes, it does. And in which case that then means that time frame becomes longer, because you've got to actually run and see how far you can run, how fast you can run, and how that shapes up. As you said, that connection between like a 5, you did a bit of running, so you were able to run 5K, but shifting up to a marathon and scaling up to a marathon is a little bit different. So if you're completely deconditioned, you get off the sofa and you go, right, I can run for 5 minutes and I can do 800 meters, let's say, which is no mean feat. Then you go, okay, well, that means I might be able to do 5K in about half hour, 40 minutes, which is, like you say, is no bad effort. It's great. But you might go, right, in my head, 25 minutes sounds really cool. Yeah. So if it's the first time you're doing a race, first time you're doing an event, you probably want, I don't know, let's say 3 months in advance minimum. Just to give yourself
kind
time.
Of a nice solid 12 weeks.
Yeah, but it's the same as you'd say if you want to get a bit stronger. You want to add 20 kilos to your squat, or lose 5-10 kilos, depending on your size and your state of conditioning. You need some time period to do that training. I mean, most people could go out and do a 5K this weekend. That doesn't necessarily mean they do it fast. It doesn't mean they do it at a pace that's happy for them, but they could go and do it.
Yeah.
Most fit people could go and do a marathon this weekend. They might have to walk a lot of it,
like I did,
but they could do it.
Yeah. So then my next question to you is, how do you go about empowering someone to be able to make that decision? Because then that's the next thing I'd say to you. Yes. Like you saying to me, you could go and do a 5K, and I agree with you. I 1,000% agree with you. I've seen it happen many times, right?
Yeah.
But then it's getting the person in front of you to believe that they can actually go and do that, because that's the issue, isn't it? Because I think a lot of them are probably thinking, there's no way I'm going to go and do a 5K on like Saturday.
Yeah. So the biggest thing I get when people come to me, or when I talk to people say, oh, what is it you do? I do triathlons a little bit. I come from a competitive swimming background. And people,
you swam for the country, didn't you?
Yeah, I've done that on a few occasions in various different guises.
Just literate and a national athlete.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have done that. I've worked my ass off, and I guess there's a better talent, but I think there are more people more talented than me. But I definitely work. The whole idea that talent doesn't work. And I was very fortunate to race both in the pool, open water, and then I've kind of come back to swimming a bit more now in the last 4 or 5 years and swim as a master swimmer. I'm 34, and I swam at the World Championships last year in South Korea, which was amazing. It was a great experience, and it was great. To be honest, part of the reason why I still do a lot of sport is because it gives me the chance to travel in different places and go and race in different places and do a bit of traveling with it. It gives an extra reason. So yeah, people say to me, oh, I'd love to do a triathlon, but I can't swim. And the thing is, again, what is can't? why can't somebody lose 5 kilos? Why can't someone get a bit stronger? It's those limitations. And actually that's why hopefully someone's talking to someone like yourself or someone like me or some other trainer or PT or coach or teacher. It's helping someone believe in themselves. It's giving someone the tools that will help them, whether that's allowing them the ability to run slower and therefore run easier, which makes the switch go, oh, I could do that. I can do that for 4 or 5 hours and run a marathon, or I can do that for half an hour and do 5K, or I can do that for 8 lengths in a pool, or actually I can get over that fear of open water and get in the lake and swim 750 meters. That's, people need to be empowered, but they need a teacher of sorts to help them get over those mental blocks, whatever those mental blocks are. And that's what we're here for. I know that we spoke before about allowing yourself to sort of be praised by other people or take congratulations from other people. Like I struggle, the people I coach, I love coaching them, and they're the ones that do all the work. And so when somebody says to me, you've done really well, actually, like, I've been really lucky that I've had people that want to do the work and that want to put that effort in. And I am good at what I do, or I hope so.
I think. Well, wait. Let's quantify that. You've trained a gold medal Olympian, so I think you are good at what you do, right? And that's where this conversation comes from, right? Because that yes. I'm only bringing it up, not brag, not to shower you with compliments, although it's an incredible achievement. Because you said to me, like, the thing is, I trained Andy Lewis, isn't it? Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, Andy Lewis, and he was a triathlete. Was he a triathlete?
Yeah, he's para triathlete, so he's a one-legged guy. And he won the first gold at Rio in the first para triathlon gold at, ever, because it was the first time it was in Rio.
Wow, amazing! What an achievement! And we were saying, like, that's incredible. And we were saying, like, I said that must have been great working with him. And you were like, well, I kind of gave him the ideas, gave him the plans, opened the door, but he went and did the work. I kind of didn't really, what I find so wonderful and so relatable about that story is, hang on, I'm having a brain fart, is the fact that someone who is so successful, so driven, so naturally talented at being an athlete, still went and did the work. And it breaks down the barrier. Like, he's talented and everything else, but he also knew he had a coach, and if he used the coach wisely, he got a result. And that is something that my client can get used to. That's something that someone who's sitting on the couch right now, they can go, well, if that's all it takes for an Olympian to do it, then surely that's accessible to me, because it was basically done via conversation, guidance, empathy, understanding, love and kindness, and it empowered someone to get a gold medal. Surely it can empower me to go and lose 5 kilos.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's absolutely that. And I had this conversation, having spoken with you about it yesterday. I spoke with my partner, and we had kind of the same conversation. She said exactly that. She said, sometimes I think you need to be a bit more comfortable with taking that. You have given people that guidance, that assistance, and that support. And I think I see that because that's part of the job. I suppose I struggle with it. I see that I put the knowledge in, I put the understanding in. But as you know, for a lot of people, it's less about the specifics that somebody does or somebody gives you, and more about just going and doing it. But I suppose I have to enjoy taking that responsibility and be happy with that. But I think we all, as coaches and teachers and whatever, have a massive role to play in giving people that the ownership, the fact that they can own whatever it is they're targeting, losing weight, getting quicker, getting stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. And so did we cover number 2? We got to number 1, didn't we? Your why. What was number 2?
Well, number 2 in terms of getting towards an event was having a plan in place to get there.
Right. Great. So it's not always why. What it's like what Jordan says, isn't it? What backs up the why is the what you're going to do.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I guess to use Andy as an example, he came into para-triathlon as someone who could run and who could cycle. So he runs on a blade.
Yeah.
And cycles with a false leg.
Sorry,
when he swim,
does he run on a blade and run on his good leg as well? Like
yes,
oh,
absolutely.
Wow.
So I keep forgetting which leg it is. I think it's his right leg that's. So he had basically lost his lower limb when he was 18, so about 20 years ago now. I think.
Wow.
I think he's about 38, and his initial sport was boxing, actually.
Okay.
But he's a fairly fit guy and got into doing a bit of running and then doing a bit of cycling. And I met him in early 2014, coaching at the lake. I was teaching at the lake and made a couple of comments to him about swimming. And he said, actually, would you mind helping me? And so the relationship there was started. And he actually took pretty much 5 minutes off his 750 meter swim time. So he went from swimming 2 minutes of 750 down to 2 minutes 100 for 750, which is the distance for Paralympic triathlon, down to the swimming 10 minutes for a 750, which is just under 130s. And that made him competitive with guys who'd come out of para swimming, so who were swimmers who'd come into triathlon, right. Which meant that his strengths on the bike and the run meant that he could run away from people rather than having to try and catch them up. And he joined up with the British Triathlon squad from mid to 2015, so 18 months out. And so I was very fortunate to work with them as a group as well. So I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
And as you said, he had and still has a lot of drive towards whatever he's doing. And I think a lot of the time, and you might associate with this, actually the key is holding people back and stopping people trying to do too much rather than trying to push them to do more. Yeah. It's not all about go big or go home. It's not, trying to smash yourself all the time. Mm. And that was as much of a challenge as trying to make sure the right sessions, the right sets and everything else were in there.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the biggest lessons I learned. And going back to like our example of someone trying to do a 5K, one of the biggest lessons I learned doing a marathon was like slow the fuck down. Like first, if you the first 10K, if you've done that in a record time, you're screwed. I was disappointed even if I did my first 10K in an hour, because I was like, it's probably still a bit quick for me. Like I might not be able to, I know I won't be able to keep that up for sure. And then it only gets worse. Like you want to build. And so like that's vitally important. Just slow yourself down. Like one of my friends recently, he's gone from never running at all to, and I want to get him on the podcast actually. He's gone from never running at all to running a 2-hour half marathon in the space of about 4 months, if that.
That's a pretty good effort.
He's a bit of a nutcase. I'm not surprised he's managed it. He's just, he's one of those guys he's a rock star, right? He plays lead guitar for a rock band, and they're very successful. And he spent many of his 20s drinking, doing whatever. And he sends me pictures of his recovery meals and stuff. And I'm like, Ben, how are you actually putting this together? Like, I don't know. And but I'd said to him, like, dude, when you're going out on a long run, like, it's not meant to be at pace. You're meant to do it slow and steady. It's just basically getting time on your feet, getting the engine ticking over. Yeah. That's all you're doing. You can't drive a car at 100 miles all the time because it will break, and you've got a much longer way to go. And he was like, nah, don't worry about it. I was like, for God's sake. But it's true. Like, you have to know when to put the brakes on, because really, and I say it to dieters as well. It's like the process is giving yourself 3 months off of a calorie deficit. Right, that is part of the process. Your weight going up during that time is part of the process, because it then allows you to go a lot quicker further on down the road. And it's a hard message to get across sometimes. It's a hard thing to get people to buy into.
Humans want to achieve all the time. I know you've got the drama background, and even refereeing, you want to be achieving all the time. And you go out on the runs, and especially when we've got things like Strava these days. I don't know whether you're running.
It's like social media for runners, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, you go out and run, and you see what other people are doing, and you think, I should be doing PBs all the time. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things with running. Even myself, I've been running. I started doing triathlon back in 2007. and I didn't really understand it until probably 2012, properly, like running, and that was after I'd done probably both my Ironman races. Was that the more running and more long distance you're doing, the easier you have to go, because I was always used to pushing everything in the water, and in the water, because there's such low impact, there's so low effort on the body, or not low effort, low
impact,
kickback on the body.
Yeah.
That you can work harder more of the time. Whereas when you're running, you put in, well, minimum 4 times your body weight through your feet. If you're running harder, then it's going to be more. If you're less conditioned running, it's going to be more. And so the time it takes for your body to recover becomes exponentially higher. And I was getting injured and niggled and all these problems. And actually, like you said, I wasn't enjoying running particularly. Whereas I plan to do a couple of triathlons this summer. And obviously the whole COVID thing has changed everything. So obviously I've not been in the water barely since March. And yet I've run 3 or 4 times a week every week since then, which is more than I've run for about 5 or 6 years. But I've really, really enjoyed it. I've absolutely loved it, because if I've run 4 times a week, 2 of those runs have been very easy, very comfortable. If I've run 3 times a week, at least one of those has been comfortable. And I mean, I'm not running at the same speed as I was 6 or 7 years ago, but it doesn't matter. I'm aware of my pace, and even my easy runs are getting quicker, but my fast runs are getting faster as well. And it's always nice to see that the theory works, and I know that it works, but it's nice to put it into practice myself and actually see it in practice, and hopefully I can reflect that onto my clients as well. Especially when I've got newer clients. I mean, I've got clients who I've been coaching for 4, 5, 6 years now, which is great, and they're seeing improvements all the time, and that's lovely. But it's nice to have myself as a case study for other people to see as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always nice. It's always nice when you come across a coach who, like, just like that experience. Like, even like, I mean, I wouldn't say, I personally, I've regularly tried to put on weight. I've regularly tried to like build some muscle and get a bit stronger. Like, I'm a 6'4" metabolic machine. Like, I burn calories the second. Like, you know how some people say they can look at food and put weight on. I look at food and burn calories. Like, it's just what happens, right? And especially with like the background of the amount of activity I used to do, like refereeing 3 times a week, training for refereeing 3 times a week, and everything else. You know, it was I just burn calories, and I found like trying to gain weight really difficult. I've tried several times to like document that, stay adherent to it, all these things that, you know, like Jordan and Mike tell us to do and that and stuff, and for that reason. But what I'm finding more and more is, like, as long as you're experimenting in some way, it doesn't matter how you're experimenting, as long as you're giving yourself a challenge and you're trying to either live up to it or fail to it, you're still creating and building something you can reflect into your clients. And that's really, really powerful. So like my marathon story, I tell all my clients my marathon story, because it has such relevance to them about, you know, if you ain't enjoying it, why the fuck are you doing it? And really, that's really the crux of life, I suppose. And so all of these experiences are really important. And I think it's when they hear us reflecting like that, I think it sends alarm bells off in their heads, and they start reflecting like that as well. And that's really powerful. And I think running, endurance running, like I think lists, like low intensity, steady state. I think being outside, walking, even just doing stuff like that is really important for that side of your life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Couldn't agree more. I know I'm 34, and I mean, fat loss and weight loss is not a big part of what I do. I mean, I get endurance clients who want to get lighter because it means they'll either race easier or race quicker. Both. I guess I've seen more and more over the last 3 or 4 years how much exercise is such a little part of that, such a small part of that. And that's more about being healthy and being strong and having the skills for life. And it really is skills for life. I mean, I was very fortunate when I was doing one of my coaching qualifications. I was getting there early in the morning and swimming in the morning beforehand. And there was this 65-year-old lady who was swimming in the lane next to me. And she said, "Oh, you swim really, really nicely." And I was like, "Thank you very much. You know, I've got many years of practice." And she said, "You know, swimming is a life skill and you never lose it." And that conversation sort of sits with me quite a lot, because I don't think I'll ever not do any sport. The sport that I might do might change, or the activity, I think is probably a better way of putting it, might change. I might just go out for walks or whatever, but I'll always be doing something, because it keeps me healthy. It keeps me sane. I mean, that's one of the things this last 9 months, and it's probably even more challenging for you being in a room for a couple of weeks, not being able to go anywhere at all. But you know, I've been living with my partner for the first time for, you know, this 9 months, and it's been great. It's been amazing. But obviously, there are teething problems for people living together, because you get used to it, and it's a small space. And so just to get out of the house is great. And it's great for her, for me being out of the house as much as it is for me. It's great for me to think through things. You know, it's mental capacity, mental health as much as physical health, and the weight loss bit that goes with it. Hopefully, you know, if you're eating right, is almost secondary from the exercise.
Yeah. So then what kind of, like, you know, obviously, like I mentioned, lists like low intensity, steady state. You have like just normal steady state and stuff like that. So, you know, if we take that 5K person again, just because it relates to the people listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, where are we putting them? Are we putting them into lists? Are we putting them into HIIT? Are we putting them into just endurance? Are we just grin your teeth and bear it and get through it? Where are they heading?
Well, assuming they're going to be able to run, it depends on how many times a week they're able to run. If they're running once a week, I'd probably just go less, just properly low, and just make sure they can enjoy it. If they can do more than that, then that's where it becomes fun, because you can vary it up. And that's the bit that people go and do the same runs, you know, people without any, well, even with a bit of guidance, go and do the same runs all the time. And that's the bit where they try and push a bit harder every time, and that's where the body breaks down.
There's a glass ceiling.
Actually, what you can do is, let's say you run twice a week. You could have one really slow, easy run, which you can start building longer and longer and longer, because hopefully you can get to the end of it and feel like you can still keep going. And then one you can do, either you can max it out, or you can do intervals, like a HIIT style effort, or you can do like something in the middle, but just mixing it up. And then if you've got a third run, it depends on the conditioning of your person coming in, your client, your athlete, whatever you want to call them, is that it's mixing up those efforts. And the longer run that you're training for, the more scope for playing around with it there is. But you know, your intervals could be lampposts. It could be a minute at a time. If you've got a Garmin, or you're looking at your phone, if you've got Strava on your phone, you can do distance. So you could do 400 meters or 800 meters or a kilometer at a time. But you can work at the pace that you want to hold, or even quicker. You know, in the same way that, you know, if you were trying to lift stronger, lift heavier, you could rack 40 kilos extra on the squat than you actually can physically squat. Get under the bar, stand up with it, and just feel it on your shoulders. Put it back on the rack. Take those extra weights off, and then just do your normal squat, and it feels easy. So it's just priming the body, but you can play around. But the biggest thing, I think, really is that variety in training, because it's that variety of stimulus that works all your different different systems. And allows you the ability to go quicker if you so choose. Yeah.
I've got two other questions. One, hang on, that one's gone. So I'll start with the second one next.
That's right.
Hang on, that one's gone as well. Oh, damn it. What was it? Brain fart.
Was heart rate?
No. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you a little story. When I was training, on a treadmill, I learned about jeffing, which is like kind of walk run kind of system, right? Like using lampposts, stuff like that. So I used cars, because I was on like massive windows, treadmill facing out of this massive window. You could see a highway. And I was like, okay, every time I see a yellow car, because I thought that was quite a random color, every time I see a yellow car, I'm just going to go up like in pace. And then like, you wouldn't believe how many yellow cars. It was yellow car day. right? So if you're going to choose a stimulus like that, choose one very wisely and one that's not going to show up all the time. I think I had to change it to like purple cars or something, and it was amazing how many of them showed up still. Yeah, man. So I mean, I'm a big fan of Jeff, and I'm a big fan of kind of going slow. Like one thing I used to do, because we used to have to run 2,600 meters in 12 minutes to be qualified as referee, which is a fair whack. You know, it's a fair pace. And so in order to do that, I used to like sprint over the kilometer mark, or I used to like sprint every like 300 meters or something like that. And then so I'd go maximal for 100 meters or 200 meters, and then I'd relax for 500 meters, then go again and relax, and go again and relax. And it was that. It was just to take my mind off the sheer pain of trying to get 2,600 meters done in 12 minutes. Like it's like 6.5, 7 laps of a track. And it's longer than it thinks. It sounds okay, but when you're actually doing it, it's tough. And definitely varying up the pace, varying up what you're doing is important.
It's like it's a 21-minute 5K or something like that. So.
Yeah. Although there's no way I'd be able to do it for a 5K distance. Like it had to stop at 2,600. Like if it was 3,000, 4,000, there's no way I'd got it done in 12 minutes. But yeah, no, it's really important, isn't it? And yeah, like heart rates, is that something people need to worry about?
So heart rate's an interesting one because it's something that people have used as a monitor for training for decades. And I remember as a swimmer, our coach would have this waterproof heart rate monitor that, you know, you'd hold the plunger against your chest and he'd read it on the monitor. And the thing is, heart rate is such a variable. So as a coach, I don't use it personally. I have it on my watch, and I use it as an indicator, and I think it's a really good indicator to look back at afterwards.
Can I quantify that? So are we talking about heart rate as you're training, or are we talking about just your resting heart rate?
Heart rate as you train.
Okay, cool.
So people will look at heart rates and they'll look at max heart rate and they'll try and divide things into zones. So people will take their max heart rate as a basic calculation, 220 minus your age, which isn't overly flawed, but it's also not overly accurate.
And you see it, but you see it on like the cardio machines, don't you? You see those graphs. This is the fat loss zone. This is the cardio zone. This is the whatever. This is the heart attack zone. And it's like, this is the you're now dead. You're never getting off this treadmill zone. And like I look at them and I think these are crazy. How can they know for each individual person?
Absolutely, and especially when it comes to different sports, different people have different efficiency levels. Their heart rate will be at different levels different for different sports because they will be predisposed. I can run. I mean, I'm 34 again. 220 minus that is 186. So my max heart rate theoretically is 186. But I can run at 190.
For I can run at 200. I can run at 200 for a good 5 minutes. And I'm like, I shouldn't be that high. I shouldn't be that high. And then I'm like, why shouldn't I be that high? I feel fine. I'm doing it. It's not a problem.
And so that's where, for me, one of the things with heart rate training becomes a bit flawed. You can work out, you can do maximal tests. You can do them on your own. Or you can go to like different centers will do kind of testing to work out your heart rate zones or your lactate zones if you're that way inclined. The problem with heart rate for me as a coach is that it's so variable. It can be affected by sleep or lack thereof. It can be affected by whether you're a little bit ill, whether you're stressed, whether you've had a few extra coffees, your heart rate is going to go up. So not only are you trying to look at your heart rate, which is going to lag, which is another downside of using your heart rate. You're running along saying, right, I've got to stay at 150 beats a minute or whatever. You look at your watch and you start picking up the pace, which is what you're supposed to be doing in your session, and your heart rate is saying 135 or 140. Great. Okay. 5 minutes down the road, it's a 160 because it's just taking its time to get up to that point, and then you get tired, so it's climbing even further. That's where heart rate as a monitoring tool, I think, falls down. And the thing is, you end up looking at your watch all the time as well, or you're looking at the monitor, whatever it is.
Falling over.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's why it's not preferred for me. That said, if I'm going out and doing a run, so I'm looking out the window and it's absolutely chucking it down out there at the moment, and I've got an interval run to do later, but I will have my watch on, and I'm doing sets of 400, and I'm going to be getting quicker. And the idea with the set is that obviously my heart rate will go up with those blocks of 400 because I'm going to be getting quicker. Mm-hmm. But I won't look at my watch for heart rate. I will just make sure that at each 400, because I know roughly along the road, because I've done it enough times along there, I know where I'm going to be pressing a lap on my watch. But it will be interesting to look at the data afterwards, because I'm a bit of a nerd from that point of view. I look at how quickly I'm going and how the heart rate.
If you're an endurance coach, you have to be a nerd for figures. You have to be.
Yeah, especially with some of the bike stuff as well. With power, it's great. And with swimming as well, there's so many numbers you can get. That's where the heart rate can be really interesting. Or yesterday, I've just ran an easy 15K. I appreciate I'm just throwing that out there. That's something that I've been running a lot over the last 9 months, and so 15K isn't for some people would be more than they could even dream of doing. But it's something that felt quite comfortable. So I can look at my heart rate after that and go, actually, I can see that I'm getting fitter, or actually I was working harder than I thought it was, or my heart rate actually was higher. Like yesterday, my heart rate was higher than I thought it was, because actually I was feeling quite comfortable. Mm-hmm. So that's my view on heart rate training. So what I prefer to do is train by RPE.
Yeah, I was going to say,
so rate of perceived exertion for those who are less sure. On a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, if you look at scientific trials, they tend to go from like 6 to 20, I think.
Yeah, they have weird numbers, don't they, for some reason?
The Borg scale?
Yeah, it is the Borg scale. I use 1 to 10. I just use 1 to 10.
Yeah. 1 to 10 is simple.
1, I can do it all day. 10, I'm dead on the floor. Pick a number.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, 1's pretty much asleep. But especially with running, because it's something that a lot of people are doing, and if you're doing it with other people, the way to monitor it is to go, can I hold a conversation?
Yep.
If you can hold a conversation, that probably means you're 4 out of 10 or less, mm-hmm. because you can keep it going all day. And if you can hold a conversation, that's slow enough, or that's easy enough. I prefer easier rather than slow. Because it takes that the ego bit out, and we've all got that ego. And so if you go, right, I'm going easy enough, I can keep it going. Don't need to look at my watch. I don't need to look at whether I'm doing 5 minutes of K or 6 minutes of K or 7 minutes of K, whatever it is. If I'm supposed to be doing a tempo bit, so working harder but not like killing myself, actually that probably should be 6, maybe 7 out of 10. Maybe I could hold it for an hour. Then I should be able to get like a sentence out comfortably, or a couple of sentences out. And if I'm supposed to be working really hard, then it might be 2 or 3 words. And the thing is, you can do that on your own. You don't even have to talk out loud. You can mouth the words. I've found when I'm running along, because I do this myself, I'll sing along to whatever song is going on in my head. It might be something, it might be something I've seen on an advert, whatever it is. And nobody wants to hear me sing out loud. I can guarantee that. But even just the process of mouthing the words, I can get out of breath if I'm working too hard. So that's my indication. And obviously, if you're running with company, then that makes it a lot easier, because you can hold that conversation, or try to. A couple
of things I've used for that is, like, one would be, how long can I hold my breath for as I'm running?
Yes.
And that's an indicator of my RPE as well. And the other is my own internal thoughts. How much can I continue on one single track of a thought, or how much is my brain going, fuck, I'm tired, and interrupting my thought? And then that's another sign of my RPE and how much higher it's getting, because I'm not able to cognitively think about something other than how much my body is struggling to do whatever it is I'm doing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then resting heart rate, so just away from actual running and training, is that a good barometer to see kind of general progress of improvement of the cardiovascular system?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, if you're a trained athlete, your heart rate's not going to change by much. But what it can give you an indication of, and I don't know whether this is something you've done yourself, is if you take your heart rate at the same time every morning, if your alarm goes off, give it a few minutes for your heart rate to calm down after that, because there will be a spike. But take your heart rate first thing in the morning, and if you'll get a baseline after a week or 2 weeks, and if it's, let's say, 55 or 50 or 45, you'll know if it then changes by more than 3 or 4 beats, there might be actually you had a crap night's sleep, or maybe you're coming down with something, and it'll be a good indicator of maybe something happening. So it's just something to be aware of. It's not saying, oh, you need to make sure you rest today, but it's just going, okay, just pay attention to what else is going on. And I suppose that's, for me, that's the thing with heart rate, whether you're using it for training or as a resting thing. It's pay attention to it, but don't swear by it.
Yeah. And don't hang your hat on it too much. A bit like scale weight, like, you know, it's going to fluctuate, it's going to change, but you want to look at data and trends over a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really good. Like, yeah, let's take heart rates along with our daily scale readings, people. Let's go first thing in the morning. I think that's a really, really good note to finish on. That's really great advice there as well, John. Like what a great chat. I really enjoyed it. It's nice to talk about something. Like, I absolutely adore running, and I don't get to talk about it enough. And it's something I do always love going back into and things. I kind of want to go for a 5K now, but I can't because I have literally 50 meters with which to run, and I'm not doing that to myself.
You're not going backwards and forwards.
No, I'm not getting in 10,000 steps a day either. I mean, God smite me down. In fairness, when my fiance was in quarantine, she got 10K a day. She just marched up and down.
You know why 10,000 steps is the kind of the register for people, don't you?
It was a marketing campaign, wasn't it? It was
what the counter could actually count to. That was the maximum.
Is that what it was? Okay. But they have since studied it. They have since put studies onto it, haven't they? And they go, it's generally a pretty good number to aim for. I think it's. I understand how arbitrary it is. If someone gets 2,000 in, someone to get 10,000 in is just going to kill. It's not worth it. Like, you know, just get up to 3, 4, keep building. But it's generally, it's just a handy number that sticks in the brain, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we're seeing lockdown, people are doing marathons along their balconies and stuff like that.
I think. Do you know Adam Hills, the comedian?
Yeah. He's one of my favorites.
I think he did a marathon in his quarantine room one day. But my doctor says I can't. It's not my fault. It's my doctor. All right. John, please tell everyone how they can get a hold of you when they need a triathlete coach or an endurance coach.
Yeah, so you can reach me on Instagram and on Twitter at _coaching. That's TRI coaching. And my website is tri-coaching.co.uk. And give us a follow or ping us a DM or ping us a message on the website if you've got any questions, because I love answering questions, and if I can help, that's what I'm here for.
I know. I get like that as well. It's like, all the time I'm saying to people, like, please just ask, like, just give me a question. Like, I'm not going to ask for money for answering a question. I just want to answer your questions because I think people underestimate how much it helps us as well, how much it helps us formulate our thoughts, how much it helps us create some content, how much it helps us just keep ourselves thinking like we're doing something each day that keeps us on top of what it is we're really trying to do. If you ever see a PT put up a question box on Instagram and their stories, ask the question, people, because we love answering them no matter what it's about.
But there's no stupid questions. I mean, exactly. It's often said, but there's no stupid questions. And the thing is, yes, obviously we do want clients. That's the fact of the matter. But we want clients not because we want to be earning millions, because as PTs and trainers and whatever, we're not. But we want to help as many people as possible. And I have found, people have come back to me having asked questions or having followed me on social media for a while, which is lovely. But it's just the fact that they've come and asked the question in the first place that's given me a chance to say, actually, I can help you, or actually, I can't help you, but I can point you to someone who can, because that's not my area of expertise.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, we just like to talk. I mean, we're hosting a podcast, for God's sake. We like to talk, okay? And if that's all we get out of it, trust me, it's going to make us happy. So it's grand. John, thank you so much for giving up your morning for the Fitness Solution. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting so coherently, so wonderfully, and so easily and so accessibly into a world that is just a whole other minefield of exercise for many people. But I think we've broken it down really well, and I think everyone's going to get so much out of this, and hopefully they're going to go and walk a 5K on Saturday. And you've got nothing to lose, literally. So from the bottom of the heart of bottom of the hearts of all of my listeners, like, thank you so much for coming on. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here. I really, truly appreciate your time. And
absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
To me. Cool. You have a lovely day, won't you?
You too. Have a good evening.
Enjoy your tempo runs.
Yeah, thank you.
Ciao, buddy.
Cheers.